If you're not new here, you probably know that I'm a huge David Nutt fan. I admire his work, and his takes on drug policies kind of make sense to me, so it's not surprising that I read some of his books. And the first one I'd like to talk about on this channel is this one. It's Drink, The New Science of Alcohol and Your Health. And I really loved reading this book, and I literally couldn't put it down until it was finished. Unlike his other book, Cannabis, but I'll talk about that in a different video. Now, who even is David Nutt to write these books? Well, David Nutt is an English neuropsychopharmacologist who specializes in researching drugs and the way they affect your body and your health. And he is also the chairman of Drug Science, which is a non-profit organization that is trying to provide information about drugs to the general public. He was also on the advisory council for the misuse of drugs and taught at a uni. The point is, the man knows his stuff, and his expertise is one of the strong points of the book. The book was pretty well received with 4.5 stars on Amazon and 4 stars on Goodreads. So let's dive into what you can actually expect from the book. The book is divided into 11 chapters that cover the biology of alcohol, the psychological and sociological aspects of drinking, and practical advice with some anecdotes sprinkled in between. In the preface and introduction, you get to know the author a bit, and the introduction also provides insights into statistical data about alcohol use and the shift in alcohol consumption over the years. Then we move to the biological part of the book, where David Nutt introduces alcohol and how taste for alcohol is mostly acquired. And then there's this extremely interesting part, or at least I found it interesting, about the biochemical processes that run in your brain when you drink. And I was looking for a book that would explain this clearly for a long time, but I was always kind of disappointed. Not this one though, this one was awesome. It is obvious that David Nutt knows what he's talking about, and he's also able to explain these pretty difficult neurobiological concepts in a straightforward way. And technically, yeah, I do have biological background, so maybe I'm not the best judge of that, but I think it's also accessible to people who do not have biological background. And you will also find these passages about tolerance and how your individual genetic makeup actually plays a role in the way your body interacts with alcohol. And the whole journey from your first sip to the horrible hangover that awaits you the next morning is described biologically. Then the book explores the health effects of alcohol, which, and this will probably not surprise you, are mostly negative. And we now know that no level of alcohol consumption is safe, and in this book you can read about how individual parts of your body actually suffer from your drinking habit. It's inspiring to say the least. And if that's not enough, a section about alcohol-related accidents and aggressions follows, and alcohol-related accidents are, unfortunately, still pretty common. In 2018, there were over 300,000 people hospitalized because of alcohol and alcohol-related accidents in the UK. And alcohol is horrible in this aspect, because not only it significantly decreases your motor skills, it will also boost your confidence at the same time, so it is truly a recipe for disaster. And then it's time to move to the chapters that explain what alcohol actually does to your mental health, where you can find out more about how individual mental health problems such as anxiety, depression, or PTSD interact with alcohol. And alcohol is not healthy for healthy people, but for people with mental health issues, it can totally tank their mental health. And as a bonus, some mental health problems actually make you more prone to drinking, so you get into this fun loop. And then we move to the effect alcohol has on your hormones and fertility, which you can probably guess is also negative. This is where I'd say the first part of the book kinda ends and the second part starts, even though the book is not clearly separated into parts. And what I'd call the second part of the book, the author starts giving you tools to assess whether you are at risk of problem drinking, so you get these questions and questionnaires and risk factor analysis and stuff like that. So you too can discover whether you are a problem drinker. And I have to say the cutoff is pretty harsh. Then you can read about the benefits alcohol has. And let's be real here, social benefits are probably one of the very few benefits that alcohol can have on you. and even that can go terribly wrong if you are not careful. And you might be tempted to say that it decreases stress, anxiety, and stuff like that, which it does to some degree, but the problem is that once the effect wears off after a couple of hours, the anxiety returns with friends. And it's not your friends. And then follows a section with tips about how you can reduce your drinking. I actually like the tips. Don't forget, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so slowly implementing some of these is absolutely fine. As is failing, you can try again next time. And it might not seem like much, but over time, even small changes can make a big difference. Towards the end, we have a section about children and alcohol, and alcohol is pretty bad for adults, but it's way worse for children. And even so, fetal alcohol spectrum disorders affect about 1 in 20 Americans, but for whatever reason, this chapter doesn't really talk about that. Instead, it gives you tips for, talking to your adolescent offspring about alcohol and how to teach them to experiment responsibly, because let's not be naive here. They will probably want to experiment at one point or another. And you want to make sure that they will not die in a field of alcohol poisoning. And finally, the last chapter kind of ponders whether there's a solution inside to the drinking crisis, and it describes several strategies that could be used to protect our society from dangers of alcohol, such as bigger taxes for alcoholic beverages, selling alcohol only in specialized shops, or forcing restaurants to have a non-alcoholic option that is cheaper than beer. And I don't know about where you live, but in Czechia, I think they tried pushing that, and I'm not actually sure if it went through, because I feel like in a lot of places, beer is still their cheapest option, and it's ridiculous how a jug of tap water with ice and a little bit of syrup is crazy expensive compared to, for example, a beer. Or compared to anything. People are usually shocked when I come here and they find out that they have to pay like $5 for a jug of tap water. Yeah. It happens. But that's of the point, so let's come back to the book. And I actually found the book well written, and I think individual parts are well balanced. The anecdotes are at places they make sense, the biology is clearly explained, and the sociological and psychological implications of drinking are explored. The advice given in the book makes sense from my perspective, it's not preachy, and a lot of it can be easily implemented without major changes to your lifestyle. And even though some parts of the book can be more difficult to stomach, especially parts that deal with neurobiology, I can't stress enough how biochemical and neurobiological concepts are explained clearly in this book, especially if you have a background in a related field such as biology or medicine. And as I said, I do have background in molecular biology, so I'm probably biased, but I think it is accessible even to people without bio background. It doesn't read as a textbook at all, and the language is accessible. The book will not prepare you for a neurobiology exam, at least I hope it wouldn't, because I'd say a neurobiologist should know a bit more. But I think it would definitely prepare you for an exam at the addictology program I studied, so that's a plus. And what I love about the self-help part is that it's not preachy. There are many suggestions and questionnaires and tools, but it's clear that the author does not actually judge you for whatever problems you might have, and is trying to give you tips regardless of whether you want to reduce your drinking or stop entirely. And it's up to you how and if you want to implement any of these ideas into your life. But I'd encourage you to try at least some of them, and some of my favorite tips are planning the number of drinks you want to have in advance, alternating your alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks, and ordering the smaller option if the drink has more sizes. The book aligns with what I think, which is that it's not desirable to ban all substances and protect people without giving them the freedom to choose. And I don't think just because a substance can be harmful, we should stop people from using it. And everything can be dangerous. And these substances have their benefits. I mean, if they didn't, no one would use them. The issue is that it's easy to cross the line where the negative effects outweigh the positives. But I think the best strategy is to educate people about both the risks and benefits of such substance. And alcohol is no different, so it makes sense that I would enjoy a book that feeds into this view of the world. And it's important to have evidence-based, not fear-based approach to drug strategy. The book builds around the concept that even though alcohol consumption is widespread and tolerated in our society, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a hard drug that should not be taken seriously. And before we wrap this up, I'd like to mention a couple of takeaways. The book is incredibly information rich, but these are just some points I would like to highlight. And I guess you could think this is basic knowledge, but it doesn't hurt to remind ourselves even the basics. So 1. No dosage of alcohol is actually safe, but you are an adult and you should be able to make decisions for yourself. Sometimes the benefits from drinking can outweigh the negatives if you don't go overboard, so drink responsibly. And if you do go overboard, don't spend the following weeks being angry at yourself. Unfortunately, alcohol reduces your ability to make decisions, and it can be difficult to stop drinking once you've started, so you'll just do better next time. 2. Binge drinking is very bad for you, so if you do decide to drink, try not to get too wasted. And 3. If you are drinking, drink water. 4. Ideally, don't drink 2 or more days in a row. And 5, treat alcohol with respect, it's a drug. And I wanted to say treat alcohol with the same respect as you would other drugs, but that could go horribly wrong. And I know, these are mostly the safe drinking guidelines, but highlighting biology is a bit more difficult because you need a lot more concept. But if you are interested in the biological aspect, you can follow my channel. I already have a couple of videos that cover that side of addiction and drug metabolism, and I plan to make more in the future. And who would I even recommend this book to? Well, I think a lot of people would benefit from reading this book, and I think I live in a bubble where people mostly share my views, and they know that alcohol is unhealthy, but having a drink from time to time can be fine and not kill you, and you can have fun. But once I leave my bubble, I'm often surprised by what people think and say. And I'm afraid these people who would really benefit from reading the book would do anything to dismiss the evidence that alcohol is in fact a hard drug that is harmful. But if you're watching this video, you probably share views more similar to mine, since that's how internet echo chambers work, especially if you found this video by YouTube's almighty recommendation algorithm. So there's a chance that you already know about the dangers of drinking alcohol. But if you're trying to get a deeper understanding of the biology behind alcohol, this book has you covered. If you want to reduce your drinking, it can be a good tool to guide you through the journey. Or at least if you're a casual drinker, if your problem is more serious, you should probably check into an inpatient program or find a healthcare professional that can wean you off, because alcohol withdrawal is one of the very few withdrawals that can actually kill you. And you can read the book in the program if you'd like, but I do recommend finding a professional for withdrawals from alcohol. The book includes a lot of statistics, which some people complained about, but I think it wasn't that bad. I actually found it interesting. And I know some people also complained that the book can be a bit repetitive towards the end, but I don't think you have to meticulously read every word to get the benefit from the book. And I've also read some nice reviews that say that they feel like the book inspired them to drink less, which is a huge plus. And unfortunately, I also read some reviews that complain that the book demonizes alcohol, which honestly I think says more about the people who say that than the book. And as I said, the book is informative, not judgmental, and we now know that alcohol is a very harmful substance, and that doesn't necessarily mean that having a drink from time to time isn't fun, but some self-regulation is necessary. So I don't agree with that. I don't think the book demonizes alcohol. I think it just describes what it is. And the last group of people complained that they didn't learn anything new, which is fair, because the book doesn't present any groundbreaking new ideas. It simply talks about what we currently know. But if you're looking for a comprehensive guide to alcohol, this book is great and I can't recommend it enough. But that's it for today's video, so I hope you learned something new and interesting and you enjoyed your time here. And thank you for watching. See you next time!